Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second selection, Spotlight, from 2015, in our current miniseries, All the News That's Fit to Print, directed by Tom McCarthy and written by McCarthy with Josh Singer, starring Mark Ruffalo, Michael Keaton, and Rachel McAdams. The film is based on the Boston Globe's longtime investigative unit, Spotlight, which was awarded the 2003 Pulitzer Prize for Public Service for its brilliant series about child abuse in the Catholic Church's Boston Archdiocese. The movie depicts only the events leading up to the publication of the team's first article, but they actually wrote more than 600 stories in the course of the following year, a daring expose which flew in the faces of their predominantly Catholic readership in a city whose political hierarchy was heavily dominated by the Church. Spotlight uncovered widespread evidence of systemic child abuse, not only in the local archdiocese, but in the Catholic Church worldwide, and brought about efforts by the Church to remedy this problem, as noted in the film's epilogue. Nevertheless, the film was well received by the Catholic community. Cardinal O'Malley of Boston issued a statement in the Archdiocesan newspaper, saying that the media's investigation of the abuse crisis instigated a call for the Church to take responsibility for its failings and reform itself, to deal with what was shameful and hidden. Vatican Radio, the official radio voice of the Holy See, called the film honest and compelling, and said that it helped the U.S. Catholic Church to accept fully the sin, to admit it publicly, and to pay all the consequences. The film's script languished for a while on the 2013 blacklist of unproduced screenplays, before McCarthy picked it up for development. He was influenced by several films, including Frost/Nixon, 2005, All the President's Men, 1976, Citizen Kane, 1941, and Good Night and Good Luck, 2005, in which he had a small role. The completed movie received much critical praise upon its release, with critics lauding its performances, historical accuracy, and screenplay. It was named one of the best films of 2015 by more than 30 publications. Spotlight was nominated for 6 Oscars and won for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay. It earned $98.7 million on a budget of $20 million. Most critics greeted the film kindly. Mark Kermody of The Guardian gave the film 4 out of 5 stars and praised Ruffalo's performance. On Rotten Tomatoes, the consensus read that Spotlight gracefully handles the lurid details of its fact-based story while resisting the temptation to lionize its heroes, resulting in a drama that honors its audience as well as its real-life subjects. Spotlight was filmed primarily in Boston, Massachusetts, and in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The Boston locations included Fenway Park, the Globe's offices in Dorchester, and the Boston Public Library. But the Boston police station shown in the opening scene was filmed in Toronto, at the former Toronto Police Service headquarters of the 11th Division Station. The Sears building on Toronto's Islington Avenue was converted into a replica of the interior of the old Boston Globe. It was there that most of the movie was filmed. Plot summary. It's 1976 in Boston, and we learn how an investigative reporting team at the Boston Globe newspaper took on the Herculean task of exposing a widespread, long-running sexual abuse scandal in the local Catholic Church. The team consisted of editor Robbie Robinson and reporters Sasha Pfeiffer, Mike Resendez, and Matt Carroll, reporting to the Globe's executive editor Ben Bradley Jr. When Martin Barron, the newly appointed editor-in-chief, arrived from Florida, he requested that the Spotlight team start investigating recent allegations that a Catholic priest had committed sexual offenses against young children, and that there may be a cover-up by the head of the Boston Archdiocese, Cardinal Bernard Law. At first, they're reluctant to cover the story, citing Barron's status as an outsider and a Jew. But together, with a crusading lawyer, Mitchell Garabedian, they set out to expose the abuse, a task which proves lengthier and far more difficult to accomplish than they could possibly imagine. Fun facts about the film. The scene where Matt Carroll discovers that one of the church's treatment centers is located near where he lives is based on the discovery he made during the investigation that accused priest Father John Hagen, whose alleged wrongdoing sparked Spotlight's investigation, actually was his neighbor. Attorney Eric McLeish claims he sent a list of 20 priests to the Globe in 1993, but that the story was buried by the Globe's Metro division, leading Robinson to admit that he was the Metro editor at the time and likely overlooked the case. While the Globe did publish the list of priests at the time, the Spotlight team did not learn about it during the investigation. In the baseball scene, the real-life Resendiz, Pfeiffer, and Robinson are seen in the background. The crew built a large set to depict the Globe newsroom. When the real reporters visited the set, they gravitated to their desks, and many of them began to arrange the items on their desks as they were at the time of the investigations. To prepare for his role, Keaton obtained videos and audios of Robinson, and when the two men met for the first time, Keaton did an impression of Robinson that was so spot on that Robinson said, "How did you know everything about me? We just met." When the real Robinson visited the set, he was so impressed to find Keaton sitting at an exact copy of his desk, typing two-fingered just as he did himself, his lips pursed and peering through reading glasses at a 2001 Globe computer screen. The filmmakers pasted a photo of Keaton with his arm around Elena Wall, who plays Robinson's real-life Barbara, in the set. Keaton also watched tapes of Jason Robards Jr. in All the President's Men for inspiration. He was relieved to discover that Robinson had only a mild Boston accent. All the journalists used blue pens, their bosses used black pens, and the editors used red pens in the method of the day. In the scene where a victim asks a reporter, "Have you read Jason Barry's book?" the reference is to a reporter who began covering sexual abuse allegations in the Louisiana Catholic Church for the National Catholic Reporter and the Times of Acadiana. By the time the Spotlight reporters broke the story of the scandal in Boston, the National Catholic Reporter had already been reporting on similar stories for 17 years. Spotlight's credits and title cards are set in Miller, the typeface used by the Boston Globe for headlines and body copy. When the real Barron went to visit Cardinal Law, the cardinal gave him a copy of the Catholic Catechism. The same one was used in the film. At the end of the scene where Sasha Pfeiffer talks with Phil Saviano in the restaurant, a TV mounted on the wall briefly shows a Penn State football game. It's a reference to the 2011 Penn State scandal in which the school's assistant football coach, Jerry Sandusky, was convicted of molesting several young boys at a football camp at the university. In the scene where Robinson meets Barron in a restaurant, Barron is reading a book, The Curse of the Bambino. Patrick McSorley is seen twice in the film, first in his lawyer's office as he reveals his abuse to Ruffalo, and second when Ruffalo is in a taxi talking to Keaton about incriminating evidence. We see McSorley pushing his kids on a playground swing. When Sasha interviews Joe Crowley in a coffee shop, he mentions Father Shanley, Doubt, 2008. This is a reference to the film adaptation of John Patrick Shanley's play, which focuses on sexual abuse allegations against a priest. The real-life Ben Bradley Jr. has a cameo as a reporter with a notepad listening to his fictional self after the 9/11 attacks. Things to look for: the real-life Resendiz, Pfeiffer, and Robinson appearing in the baseball scene. The authenticity of the Boston Globe newsroom set. Keaton's not-so-strong Boston accent. The photo of Robinson's daughter near Keaton's desk, accompanied by the framed photo of Keaton with his arm around the actress who plays Barbara Robinson. Watch for Cardinal Law's gift of a catechism to Martin Barron. The TV set in the restaurant showing the Penn State football game. Barron with his copy of Dan Shaughnessy's Curse of the Bambino. Patrick McSorley, seen in his lawyer's office and in a playground pushing his kids on a swing. Joe Crowley's reference to Father Patrick Shanley, the real-life Ben Bradley Jr.'s cameo as a reporter with a notepad, listening to his fictional self after the 9/11 attacks. Now it's time to view Spotlight. Sit back, settle down. Please remember that it may take a few minutes for the film to roll. Enjoy.